Hey!
Welcome to Demasked. I'm Frezzman, and today I'm joined by a very special guest, JasonTakesOmegle. Jason, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good.
Fantastic. So, from what I've seen from both Twitter and YouTube, your channel consists mainly of dressing up as iconic character Jason Voorhees and going on to Omegle and just scaring the shit out of people.
That's most of it, yes.
So what got you into why Jason? What got you into the whole Friday the 13th thing?
Okay, well, I always sort of grew up with horror, but my earliest memories would have been more like Critters, Jaws, all that sort of stuff. Apparently I saw an American Werewolf in London when I was really young, but I don't remember it. But
I mean, that might be something you're repressed if it was an American Werewolf in London.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised, because I actually forgot for like 15, 20 years that Gamork was in The Neverending Story. I remember every other part of the movie, but even if he was like in those scenes, I would like blank those parts out.
So it doesn't exist.
Yeah. So even when Atreyu's drowning in the pit of despair, I can't remember the name, and Falcor comes to save him, that's all I remember of that. Like, that's the only threat. There was no threat of Gamork coming to eat him, because it's just like, well, what's the point? He's going to drown anyway.
There's nothing else going on. He's just drowning.
Yeah, he's just drowning. That's it.
So, what was your first Friday the 13th movie?
It was actually the first one.
Really?
Yeah. Of all the movies, because this was June 13th, Friday the 13th, 1997.
That'd do it.
Yeah. But of all the movies they could have played by that point, by 1997, it was the first one.
My first was probably not the best pick. It was Freddy vs. Jason.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, I can understand that decision because I was very young right after that movie came out. My dad's like, This is the least horrible out of all of them.
I mean,
like
the least budget,
as far as gore.
Yeah, gore, budget. Yeah, the MPAA fucked off by that point.
just leave it alone. It's fine.
Yeah.
And I've since then gone back and rewatched all of them, and I've been trying to convince my wife she hates scary movies. But I've been telling her, day in and day out, I'm like, they're not even scary. They're just goofy.
Yeah. I mean, it was a product of its time, and the effects were really good back then. And if the MPAA didn't get in the way, it would have been a lot better. And if, Paramount, for example, didn't get in the way of the budget.
Mm-hmm. What did you think of the remake?
It's a good TLDR of the first four movies, except it's kind of rewritten, so I don't know. It gives you kind of the footnotes, but it doesn't give you the whole picture, and it kind of skews it here and there. You still get the part 4 revenge story, but it's sort of more a rescue mission rather than revenge.
Yeah, I thought that was an odd part of that, where it's like, oh, we're the one character's like, yeah, my sister's up on that mountain. It's been 2 months, but I'll go see. I'm not gonna call the cops. I'm just gonna go myself.
Yeah,
check it out.
Well, the cops don't want to get involved anyway, but it's tricky because you have two motives that wouldn't work in the context of the remake. Like, I mean, even in part 4, it works and it doesn't. But, like, you either have, I think she's still alive, and I'm going to go rescue her. And,
Mhm.
you know, at least there's a reason. But it's also been, like, months. Um,
Yeah.
and he didn't even think to go in there himself. Like,
Well,
he's been to
my
the
question
town
is, what?
before, but he's never actually gone into Crystal Lake looking for her until that movie. Like,
Yeah, you think the minute she didn't come home when she said she was going to, you'd head up.
yeah, because he's been there, like he's been to the town, but he didn't go where she was. So I didn't get it. But like, but then if the remake picked the revenge angle, like if she was found dead and he went to get revenge on her, it's just like, well, whoever it was, everyone else is dead too. So, you know, like, are
See,
you really going to go in there and try to get revenge on someone that knows how to kill like 10 people?
yeah, 10 people and then get away with it, like, without leaving a trace.
Yeah.
Well, in, I think that's even just inherently more interesting than, hey, my sister's missing. It's like, hey, my sister was killed at Crystal Lake. I know there's somebody up there, and I don't even know who he is, but I'm gonna find him.
Yeah. I don't know. It's tricky.
Yeah. Well, like, what gets me is, like, what has she been eating for months that has kept her totally healthy and fine?
Well,
You know?
definitely not her friends. Maybe her
Yeah.
friends. I don't know.
Ha-
Well, it comes
ha-
back to the idea that Jason, like from part 3, would have probably gone to the convenience stores in the past and just like
mm,
stolen some extra fruit, vegetables, whatever, and bring it back.
yeah, robbed a orange stand or something.
Yeah.
Now, what would you say would be what's your favorite iteration of Jason and your least favorite? Because I guess your favorite would be part 7 because profile pictures and all this.
Yeah. 7 definitely in terms of like the neck down is really good.
Mm-hmm.
Even the face and everything, but um, especially seeing like with the Friday 13th game, like the face being redone, that's probably like up there as well. And the hockey mask, I actually prefer the part 9 one, which is why I wear that instead of the 7 mask.
The Jason Goes to Hell version where it's like grown into his face.
Yeah. But
I liked it. Yeah.
just before where the SWAT team shows up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably the rarest mask of all of them, because the one you'll see the most is where there's the eye damage, which only happens after the explosion at the end and throughout the rest of the movie. The second rarest is the bullet hole, like that first shot where his head like kicks back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then the rarest is getting a mask like every second before that.
Didn't they finally show, like, didn't the Friday the 13th game actually show what Part 9 Jason looks like under the mask?
Yeah.
It's got like a kind of a half skull look.
Yeah, you got like some of the jaw showing, not just the teeth. Like some of the bone there.
And his nose is just gone.
Yeah.
So what made you choose to dress up as Jason and do this sort of thing on Omegle?
Well, I used to dress up in the late 90s, early 2000s with just, the cheap stuff you had back then, like Halloween store, hockey masks, and none of the holes were in the right places. Nothing was right. But, you just throw in a dark blue jumper, some black pants. That was more based on the Todd McFarlane figure. Yeah, because that was supposed to be the Jason Goes to Hell one, and that was a movie I'd seen the most by that point because it was the only one I could rent at the time because it was MA, where the rest were R.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's all I had until Jason X. And that was MA, and then by that point I turned 18, so I just went back through the back catalogue. The only reason I saw it at the first one in 1997, because they just decided to show it at this police run gym. So
police run gym?
Yeah, it's called PCYC. It's the Police Citizens Youth Club.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's a gym, and the police run it, and they decide to have a Friday the 13th, horror movie night. So they got the projector, and they had a couple movies on. One of them I completely forget what it was, but the other two were Scream and Friday the 13th. And Friday the 13th had the top billing, obviously, that night, whereas Scream came on before it. So you would think, logically, being the first slasher I saw, Scream would be the favorite. And with Friday the 13th, it was just Jason's mom, Pamela. But I saw Scream and I was like, it's a bit too meta for my taste, even for 1997. I was just like,
that's a little much.
Yeah, a little meta. And then Friday the 13th came on, and it was the uncut version, funny enough. Because a lot of people get it the wrong way around with Australian censorship. The only way that movies got banned in Australia, and it's still sort of the case, is if there's sexual violence. So things like I Spit on Your Grave, banned, that kind of thing. But if there was just R-rated violence, it got in uncut. Even when I got Friday the 13th Part 3 on VHS because they were selling it, I got my mom to buy it. That has all the longer extended kills. So I watched Friday the 13th.
You're cutting out a little bit.
Oh, okay. It should be. Oh, it is actually a bit funny on my end. So yeah, Friday the 13th Part 3 was really good on VHS, and it was so good. The first movie that night, and I really appreciated the practical effects. And I think even when I watched Scream, it kind of did itself a disservice because it did do that callback to Friday the 13th at the very beginning of the movie. It's here's a superior movie, and we're just going to reference that at the very start, and now all of your expectation for this movie is just going to be oh, okay.
You're cutting out again once more.
Oh, damn. Well, it should still sound good on my end, so we can.
Yeah. Should hopefully work just fine.
Yeah. it was very interesting. I think, yeah, Scream wasn't doing itself any favors, like referencing these other movies and putting them up on a pedestal and then trying to do its own thing. It's like, okay, you're like the little brother of slasher movies.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Well,
So I guess going back to the whole like dressing up as Jason thing, um, in particular, when my sister borrowed Jason X and had a sleepover with her friends, I dress up as Jason, and I did actually get my hands on a machete, so it wasn't just like this, little kitchen knife. And I knew one of the bits was sort of coming up where everyone would get scared anyway. So I just came barreling into the lounge room and scared the hell out of everyone. And then my second girlfriend.
Your mic's cutting out a little bit there.
Okay. Yeah, it should still be on fine on my end. It looks good.
I wonder if it's just a connection issue.
Yeah, it's probably just Skype.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, and even with my second girlfriend, I would dress up sometimes as Jason and scare the hell out of her. My latest girlfriend, who I've been seeing for like 9 years now, she actually doesn't get scared. So I'm like, aw. But I was sort of in and out of the convention scenes and all that sort of stuff for a few years. But when 2010 rolled around, I started to take cosplay and conventions a bit more seriously. And I sort of, tried out a couple of different cosplays, and then I remembered back, like, I've always had fun dressing up as Jason, and everyone else that I saw doing it, especially in Australia, like, they just put the cheap mask on, and, like, they have the long hair, and sometimes they even have a chainsaw, and I'm like, what are you doing? But, like, they go chasing people around, and it's like, it doesn't feel like Jason. So I just started going on eBay, looking up hockey masks, and my first one was through Jason Creation Station on eBay. And then I just got old work clothes, slashed them up, and then I went and found.
Yeah. Real quick, your mic's stuttering pretty bad. I can't quite make out what you're saying.
Oh, okay.
So you were telling me about the Scream movies, and you said an ex-girlfriend or current girlfriend?
Oh yeah. So I used to scare my ex-girlfriend all the time, and then my current girlfriend, she never got scared, and I guess in a way I just needed to find an audience that I can scare.
Mm-hmm.
So after doing a couple of other cosplays, I remembered back and going, I should dress up as Jason. So I got the mask off eBay. I tore up some old work clothes. I found some ghoulish gloves, and it was only like one-sided. So the back of the hand was ghoulish, the other side was just plain silk black. And then I found like this ghoulish mask in a Halloween store, and then I got like a swimming cap, like the latex swimming cap, cut it up, and then like applied it around the ghoul mask because it was only like a half mask, and so I glued it onto it with like silicone glue, and then just like repainted the whole thing, and I wouldn't really take that mask off too often. So it was just sort of there, so like, oh, what's underneath that?
What is it?
Yeah, just like kind of give that like, or at least he tried and put some sort of mask over instead of just like having long hair everywhere. And then over time, I just kept like digging up, you know, more and better sources for masks and that sort of thing. And eventually I came across the I can't remember the brand, but it was the License Part 7 mask. So I got that. Actually, no, the first mask I got, like the first hockey mask, was the Freddy vs. Jason mask. And then I got the Jason Creation Station mask off eBay. So
the what again?
So
the what again? Jason Creation Station?
yeah, that's the seller on eBay. It was Jason Creation Station. That was like one of the earliest people I found out about that would do the custom Jason hockey masks.
Oh, apparently they got a whole website. Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few people out there, and I was after a Part 9 mask, and not many people were doing that back then. A lot more people are doing it now. There's still probably, like, when you go on Instagram and look at all these people, or even Facebook, anywhere, you look at the people that do hockey masks, the most common ones are Part 3 and Part 7. And then it
definitely
falls by the wayside after that. I think Part 6 and Part 4 would be the next one that's very popular. And then Part 8 and Part 5, and then Part 9.
And I know there's a bit of a market for the what's it called, the Jason X, but like pre-Uber Jason, and also the remake version.
Actually, probably still the most popular one. I forgot about it. Was probably the Freddy vs. Jason one. That's probably the most popular because that was like the whole new market of Friday the 13th fans. So that's probably at the top. But I don't usually think about it. It's like Freddy vs. Jason or remake, then Part 7, and then or Part 7, Part 3, Part 6, Part 4, Part 5, Part 9. I think Jason, like pre-Uber, is probably, it'd be before Part 5, but probably not before, it'd be before Part 9. Yeah, it'd sit just above those two. And then Uber Jason, that's probably the least made one, just because of its complexity, and there's only one outfit you can really go with that.
Exactly. And a lot of the times it's usually, I keep finding ones that are like, it's just rubber and it's already connected to like the latex hood. The mask itself is latex.
Yeah.
And like I want, like I made the joke like the first time I ever got one of my masks. I've got like 7 of them now of varying shapes and designs. But I made the joke that I want my face, the pink and blue, I want that made out of every material known to man.
Yeah.
Like the closer I can get my face to being bulletproof would be fantastic.
Yeah.
And like it really says something about the just how well a character can carry a simple design, like Jason's overall design. If we're just talking about the mask, overall there's not much going on, but it certainly takes on its own personality as like more damage happens to it throughout the series.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of character to it. Even in part 3, like, especially when you do see it in more like higher definition, like going from VCR to DVD, you start to see a lot better, like the damage that it takes going from the harpoon scene through to when he climbs in through the window in Higgins Haven. Like, there's a lot of just scratches, and you can start to see the white underneath.
Some of the paint's getting scratched away.
Yeah, and then by the end, axe to the head, that just adds its own little flair.
Well, like, even the axe mark has kind of become a staple of the design. Like, even way down the road into I'd say part 9, I believe the axe mark is still there.
Yeah, it's definitely there in 9. And the funny thing, I think it's, as the movies have gone on, it's like the mask has taken on its own, like, damage repair. Even though, like, part 6, it's like he's held on to the part 4 mask, and then as things that happen to it, he's kind of like tried to restore it. But then once he's given it back to Jason in part 7, obviously there was the damage from the propeller. And that decided to switch sides. But the bullet hole repaired itself between 6 and 7. The axe mark had gotten smaller, and then in part 9 it gets smaller still, and then in Jason X, for some reason, the nose decides to take on a more
like a pointed edge.
Yeah, pointed edge, almost pig nose. Bit of Slipknot inspiration there. But then the axe cut is no longer there, but you can see like an imprint.
Yeah, it's like a dent.
Yeah, definitely more a dent than anything. It's like, and even like going from part 7 to part 9, the propel damage recedes on the hockey mask. So it used to be like a lot deeper and closer to the holes in the mask on the side there, and then part 9 it just like kind of grows back a bit. So
like it's an idea that was, I believe, introduced in Jason X, is the idea that it's just a hint of supernatural BS, but then on top of that it's like, well, Jason also has like inherent regenerative abilities.
Yeah,
he can just heal from all of this.
Yeah, and you can definitely even see that part 6 moving forward, that like the exposed bone above his eye actually does like repair itself going into part 7. And then obviously he gets the propeller damage in part 6, and you can see that in part 7, but by the time Jason Goes to Hell comes along, that's all sort of grown back, but it's never perfect. And even the axe mark is more prominent in 6 than it is in 7. Like it all, like older damage, it kind of like you see it just like receding over time, and then obviously new damage gets added, and then that kind of like fixes itself up. Even Jason X, his bad eye starts like growing back. I mean, he gets stabbed in the eye again in part 8, and that doesn't help, and it's like all fucked up in part 9 still. But by Jason X, it's like half grown back, and then she just pulls it out. It's like, thanks.
Yeah,
I was growing that back, and
oh,
you do this to me.
that scene, that scene, it might be one of the lesser, like, horrific effects that I've seen in horror films, but it's still just something about eyes being messed with. Just, oh god.
Yeah,
All that, and I like the idea that as time has worn on and he's worn the mask for longer and longer, not only has his face begun to deteriorate because of it, but it's also like the mask has kind of become almost welded to his face.
yeah. It's basically become part of him by that point.
Mm. Like in Jason X, where she has to like cut it off and like you
Yeah,
can hear like suction.
basically.
So,
But even
that's what I want someday.
yeah, and someone tried arguing that he looks more damaged in part 7 than he does in part 6. And I mean, from a costume standpoint, like the clothes that he's wearing hasn't deteriorated enough to actually show you underneath. Like, being underwater definitely worn away the clothes to actually show you underneath all the ribs and everything. But I think there are references, and like he is actually supposed to be, like, even when you look at Jason's face in part 6, it does look more decayed than in part 7. Like, there's more damage to it, but it's less decayed. Like, there's been skin growing back, because there's around the mouth he does have like the bone, like where the skin's receding around the mouth. In part 7 it's grown back, and then again, like, the propeller's a separate issue, but even like his nose had the exposed bone like it does in part 9. But then part 9, that's because of the mask. But between 6 and 7, like, that's like it's tried to grow back. So, and it obviously had like more room to grow underwater.
Actually, speaking of masks, have you heard of the channel Big Hush?
Yes, yes, I have.
His tutorials on mask painting are how I made my mask.
Yeah, one of the few things that I do differently from Big Hush, because when I started working on mine, that's when people started like pointing me to his channel, and the first thing was that when he gets to the painting stage, he mixes water with the paint, but then he sort of like dry dabs it on.
Oh yeah.
What I was doing, I had like several different brushes, so that's the first thing. So I was, I guess like, I was sort of looking about details from the very start, rather than
Sure.
like, you know, sort of dab everything on and then do the details later. I just sort of like, I don't do the whole big picture thing. But one of the key things was, instead of using water and paint, and then later on using like the protective coat spray, what I did was, when I would get the colors I want, I would add a little bit of like fabric glue, because like fabric glue is, if you put it in the wash, like, it's not gonna come apart. So with that in mind, I mixed those two together with a bit of isopropyl alcohol to kind of make it sort of a watercolor, and also like kind of break apart the glue a bit, but not completely, like, so it doesn't feel like glue when I'm painting it on. But it would dry really fast, and because you're doing it as such a thin coat, any sort of mistakes you can paint over it a lot easier as well. You can just build up and build up and build up on the layers until you get the color and texture and everything that you want. So, yeah, but instead of like spending a day on it, I spent like about a week. Even though it was quicker because I didn't have to wait for anything to dry because I could just paint back on it. Like,
Yeah.
Because one of the big problems with painting is that, like, when you're trying to paint back over something, you gotta wait for it to dry first. Otherwise, you're gonna get all these issues with like, yeah.
Exactly. I had that problem all day because, like, I've very rarely worked with spray paint before making my mask.
Yeah.
So like, it must be dry now, and I leave like a big dumb thumbprint. And I'm like, oh, I guess I messed that up.
Yeah. So that's because I think I was inspired by I think it's Prozaid. It's like a special kind of like latex silicone paint where it does have like the description of it was that it was alcohol based and then it had like a glue kind of property to it. So I thought, well, how can we emulate that on a budget, especially having to ship that from the US or companies that already kind of import it, because we don't really have anything like that in Australia that I'm aware of. So I'm just like, okay, let's just do a budget version of that. And it's turned out really well. So I don't really have the mask in too many of my videos, but just any picture on Instagram over the last 2 years has been this mask.
I'll have to take a look. I'll probably put some up in post editing because I usually put a background and try to put visual cues.
Yeah, I love this mask a lot. I actually tried to commission someone to do it for me, and it took like a year or two before they were like, nah, I can't do it. But they had a lot of health issues, and I was more than happy to wait, but I don't know. I think his passion for it was sort of dead by that point. Yeah. But, I mean, given, like, especially now how saturated custom hockey masks has become, and there's usually still, like, maybe 3 people most people sort of go to, it can be pretty disheartening, and all the drama and politics that comes with it.
The politics of wearing a mask on the internet?
No, the politics of making custom masks.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that really hold on to their domain. I won't name any names.
Well, I got a lot of guff when I first started my channel about almost 3 years ago now. But they're like, so there's this other guy on YouTube, and he's very, very, very famous, and he also wears a hockey mask, specifically a Jason Voorhees hockey mask, right?
Yep.
But well, I mean, I don't hate the guy, so I think it's fine to say his name. I don't hate him. H2O Delirious, he does gameplay stuff.
Yeah, I know.
Stuff
I
like
know
that.
it. Yep.
But the minute I ordered that mask, it, like, friends, family, oh, you're gonna try to be like H2O Delirious? No.
Yeah, no, it's two completely different things, and that's not even how he started his channel either. Like, his channel was completely different. If you go back before the GTA videos, completely different channel. That was a rebrand. So
Yeah, the GTA stuff, I think, kind of like it is a rebrand, but I feel like it was an accidental rebrand.
yeah, once he did that, he fell into it, and that's when everyone sort of associated him with. But like, he doesn't act like Jason in any way. Like,
Yeah.
it's an entirely different thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, like,
Well, it's funny that you said you commissioned somebody to create a mask for you, because there's this guy who lives next door, and I finally like talked to him the other day, and he's been here for months, but I just never saw him. But apparently he does woodworking. He like creates furniture and stuff like this.
yeah,
And the minute he told me that, I'm like, I wonder if I could get like a wood finished version of my mask,
it's
like
possible.
like a carved wood thing with like hardwood flooring finish on it or something.
Yeah, I mean, Big Hush has already emulated that, but yeah,
Ah, oh, jeez, did he?
yeah. Basically, like, he uses the Dremel in such a way, like in a vertical fashion, to kind of like have that like in between board, like if it was made of like a couple slats, like 2 or 3 slats, and
Oh
just sort of
yeah.
like runs it down. I think both eyes, like just along that sort of thing, and then just like
Oh,
has little
son of a
chips of
gun.
it around the bottom and the sides, and yeah.
Yeah. I, I just looked it up. I'm like, oh,
It,
you're right.
if you've thought of it, Hush has probably already done it.
Well, like, see, he dremeled a plastic mask. I want to see if
Oh yeah,
this guy can't carve it out of a block of wood,
yeah.
and like, if there is such a thing as a vaguely pink floor finish,
Mm.
then like, I'd like to do that. That'd be a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, but it's kind of dumb when people keep trying to draw back conclusions to H2O Delirious. He's like the most famous YouTuber with associated with a hockey mask, but like it's like it's such a synonymous mask, like with a lot of things, and you could always say like all of those TV references to the hockey mask, like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, like 30 years of references.
Yeah, so it's like he's just another step in that. Like, what would honestly be the difference between H2O Delirious and an episode of Goof Troop with the Mutilator? Again, hockey mask, chainsaw, or go back to, funny enough, the Neverending Story 2. You had the pre-movie show, which was the Bugs Bunny one, and he goes to the theater. I, I don't think he has a ticket, and I don't remember a lot of it, but yeah, Elmer Fudd's supposed to be making sure everyone has their movie tickets and everything else like that, and Bugs is pranking on him and everything, and Daffy's there too. Wait, is that even the right canon? Yes. And then
Well, what I
he trips them when they're running back into the theater, and they fall into the movie screen, and there's a guy there with a hockey mask and a chainsaw. Like, that's like 1991, 92.
yeah, so what, like, part 9 is, it probably hasn't even come out yet.
Yeah, and they're already making references to the hockey mask, and then they go with the chainsaw because it's noisier. So, and like
It's
people have been doing that for ages, and even Friday the 13th, the sack mask is a callback to the town that dreaded sundown, And then the
Mm-hmm.
hockey mask apparently made an appearance in like one other film just before part three. Like, and the whole thing is basically a cash in on Halloween. So
Yep.
to
Everybody.
draw conclusions to everybody that, oh, you wear a hockey mask, H2O delirious. It's like if you wore like say a long, like a trench coat, even if it's like a completely formal trench coat, if you wore that in the early 2000s, The Matrix
Matrix.
or
Yep.
Columbine, like everyone
Oh,
has their like pop culture references they call back to. So
I like I something about just like, hey, look at this cool trench coat I bought, and just one person goes, Columbines? Oh.
yeah, it doesn't matter when you bought it or whatever else.
Or if you even know about it.
Yeah,
Ah. Well, like what I find interesting when it comes to masks, I like especially kind of like the Jason mask. So the my mask as it stands now, wasn't it? That's not at all the design I had for it. The only reason it is a Jason mask is because it was the most accessible.
yeah,
It was just on Amazon, and I'm like, yeah, I'll get that. Because when I look for blank face mask, it's like, what do you mean, like a masquerade mask? I'm like, no, I want something that covers all of it.
yeah,
And luckily, I found stuff like. What's funny is my mom and my little brother have kind of gotten in on that whole joke. So whenever like I like going thrift shopping, so we'll go in there and my brother's like, "Look, I found this," and he'll find like a real hockey mask, like a certified hockey mask.
yeah,
And I'm like, "Oh, that's perfect," but there's so many holes in it, so the players can breathe. I need way less holes in my that face. And we found one this last Halloween. It's I wouldn't blame you for not seeing it, but did you see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows, the new one?
no, no,
Well, it's terrible, but
yeah.
but uh,
I'm just like,
Casey
is that
Jones.
a Michael Bay one or literally every other like Ninja Turtles? Because I don't remember any of the like not
It's
taglines,
the
but
Michael Bay one,
yeah, I haven't watched the
but
Michael Bay ones.
you're lucky. Like I love terrible movies, so like I won't pay money to see it, but if it's available on a streaming service, I will sit down
Yeah,
and watch it. And I watched that second one, and they had Casey Jones is in it, and he had, is kind of like a vigilante, like a vague Jason knockoff, as it were. Except he doesn't kill people; he just beats them senseless in like like the middle of a state park with like hockey sticks. Um,
yeah,
but they gave him this new design of a mask for that film, and luckily, my problem with a lot of Halloween masks, especially nowadays when they're really cutting costs, is you get that really flimsy, thin plastic that just breaks on its own.
yeah,
But I was walking around Spirits Halloween, and my brother goes, "Hey, look at this!" And I look over, and there's a Casey Jones mask just hanging there, and it's like the perfect size for my head because I've got a big head. And I'm like, "Oh, look at this!" And I pick it up, and I'm waiting for it to be just like really bendy, crappy plastic. And I pick it up, and it's solid.
wow.
It's perfect. And I'm like, "Guess I'm buying it." It's like $10, but I'm getting it.
Yeah. That's a pretty good score, actually.
Yeah.
I'm actually looking at it now, and yeah,
I want the original Casey Jones mask from the first TMNT movie.
Yeah, that was a good one. I think I'm gonna look at fiberglassmasks.com because for me so far, like my big thing is like the masks from fiberglass masks are probably, as far as I can tell, probably the best ones you could probably get, even for the price. And it's got some classic masks on there too, and it has every iteration of every mask throughout the movies. Like, it's got 7 different iterations. On 5 different iterations of the Part 3 mask. It's got 4 different versions of the Part 4 mask. Oh no, 3.
Is it the website with the it's like a grid of masks?
Yeah.
I decided to look it up on my phone so I'm not like clacking away on my keyboard and have that on the audio. But oh my god, these are really cool.
Yeah. And it's like, because so the first Part 3 is clean. The second one is that slightly weathered, and that's what I went for. But I went for what's his name, Crash Cunningham. I went for that one because it was slightly weathered. So that would be, either Shelley or when you see Jason on the little pier.
I think one of my like I mentioned before, I've got kind of a big head. It runs in the family. But one of my favorite masks, if I could ever get one of these, would be Part 8's, because it's the whitest and looks like it's just the most comfortable to wear.
I think Part 6, in some scenes, and I guess depending on who's wearing the mask and whatever, like when you see Jason getting into the water at the end, obviously, it looks more wrapped around his head. But when, say, the day scene, in the what you call it, it was, I can't believe I forgot the name for it. Paintball. The paintball scenes. It looks more like a pancake.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah. So, like Part 8 has that. It's like the straps are looser, so the mask just kind of like fits a bit more away from the face, rather than wrapping around it like you can see with the Part 3. The other thing though is, as time goes on from Part 3 all the way through, particularly the top and the bottom of the mask, that sort of excess, so you can see it, especially with Part 3, you can see like there's about an inch where it kind of like, where the mask sort of like bends outward, just near the edge. So you can see like there's a big like full inch between the mask and like the holes near the edges.
Yeah.
But you get down to like Part 7, and there's like a quarter, like, well, an eighth of an inch between the edge of the mask and any of the holes surrounding it. And even Part 6, it's about quarter inch. There's definitely a lot less mask around the edges in Part 6 than there is in Part 3. So the mask is actually getting smaller because the edges are deteriorating regardless of damage.
Just time itself is making it smaller.
Yeah. So even Part 8, they've actually added more back to it, so it's more like Part 6. If you look on that grid where Part 8 is, you should see Part 6 Bullet version 2, the one just before the boat damage. You look at the Part 6 and you go straight across to the Part 8, and it's almost identically the same mask, but the yellow paint job's been added back.
Mm.
And then the chevrons are different, obviously. But that's
I'm,
basically
I'm writing.
identical.
I'm writing all of these website names down because I'm gonna go back and look.
I'm like a library of this stuff. When people are like, oh, have you seen this Jason meme, or you know this about Jason, or have you seen Jason in Resident Evil 2? I'm like, yes, I have.
Well, I just like I've been like a lot of times I've been looking for masks, and I'll just throw it into Google mask blanks, and it's like, oh, it's how to make masks out of paper mache. I'm like, great, that's not what I need though.
Yeah, the last time I did a paper mache Jason mask was October 2009. No, sorry, October 2010. Yeah, October 2010. And then after that, it was Freddy vs. Jason mask, and then I spent forever wearing the Jason Creation Station Part 9, which is actually a Part 3 mask, and then they've added the damage. Like, they didn't wear down the edges first before adding the damage. So it's the same, like, length as a Part 3 mask, rather than being a bit rounder looking.
Well, I'll certainly put a photo of it up on the screen. I'm gonna have to. I've got a legal pad in front of me here.
Yeah, but when you go down from the hockey mask, like the Jason ones, you have vigilante and villain masks, and you have the original Casey Jones in all different like stages of weathering. Then you've got bloody. Then you've got Casey Jones with Jason chevrons, and then a yellow one, and you can even like probably custom it. You can even there's a Part 8 Casey Jones mask.
Well, I saw there's one that I'm staring at here. It's it's a clean version because I like the entire idea of the mask, or at least my mask design, is that the shape of the mask itself can change shape, but the design remains the same.
Yeah.
It's always pink, there's always blue tiers.
Yeah.
And so, like, there's one mask that I gotta be honest, I didn't think it existed in tangible form without it being incredibly expensive, but here I am, incorrect. And it's the terror mask from Splatterhouse.
Where was that one again? Is that under custom?
It's under Vigilante Villains, and it is so do you see the MTV Scream masks? They're right next to the Mighty Duck masks.
Oh yeah, yep.
It's under new, and it's those. It has a couple of mouth holes, and it looks like it wraps around the head.
Yeah, it looks kind of alien. Yep.
Yeah, that mask is so fucking cool. Have you played Splatterhouse before?
No, but I actually just remembered someone posted a picture of me from PAX Australia a few years back, and they said it was. I think they actually said it was like Jason from Splatterhouse. I'm like, ooh. I've seen people play it, but I haven't played it myself.
Like it sounds goofy, but I'm like 80% sure I'm not the only one who doesn't. But there are moments in video games that are so good that I have to like kind of go back and just watch that. Like, I'll just look it up on YouTube, and it's just super cool.
Oh, I do that all the time for so many different games.
Well, with Splatterhouse specifically, the mask itself is voiced by Jim Cummings.
Yeah.
and he makes this really weird point of why Rick, the main character, should put on the mask, and it's because like Rick has been like disemboweled and he's bleeding and dying, and he's like, there's a moment where like the reason he can hear the mask is because like his blood's touching it, and so the mask goes like, "Who am I? I'm God. You're God. At least the only God that's listening right now." It's just like, oh shit.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh no. And, like, he even like kind of keeps it going as Rick picks up the mask. He's like, if you show me some faith and put me on, and then you see the mask like go onto Rick's face, and it, like, he turns into like this whole like huge muscly dude, completely transforms him.
Yeah.
But like, I'm like, man, I really want that mask, and I don't know why I just kept looking it up on Google. Like, hey, where can I find the Splatterhouse mask? It's like, here's like a thin plastic replica. I'm like, that's not. It's close, but but I gotta say, it's super refreshing to find somebody to talk masks with, because whenever I try to bring it up with like my wife or my roommates, they're not into it as much as I am, so they just kind of give me a crazed look.
No, I definitely understand that, especially living in Australia. Like, there's not even anyone on Australia online I can talk to about this sort of stuff. So,
yeah, I wish they weren't so spendy. Just staring at all these.
Yeah. I could easily see myself buying like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
See, they have a version of Loki's mask from The Mask. And I wish they had a blank version of that. Because it's already like...
Sometimes I think when you go to their order page, hang on. That one looks... I mean, you could probably ask for them not to like paint it, because he has to do all that anyway. So you could just like, you know, just don't bother with that.
Hey, don't paint it, don't finish it, don't do anything with it. Send it to me blank, please. I tried to order. These are all. I've gone to many different outlets trying to accumulate masks, and again, my wife thinks I'm nuts because they're all the same color, same design, but
there's always, because even Fiberglass Mask, I think, is probably the one-stop shop for all of this, because he does have blank fiberglass masks. Does he actually have?
Are you a spokesman for this?
No, but because just under the miscellaneous items part, it has things like mask upgrades. You can add the foam inserts behind the mask to actually make it more authentic in that respect, and even just like different head straps. Like, what I was going to do with this other guy was, because I wanted my Part 9 mask to have an adjustment at the back, rather than copy what, like, the mask that I already had, where it just does it like sort of, it already like the part going over the top sort of just loops over, but the two bits on the side, you have like the buckle and the different little holes and everything. And he says, well, actually, what about putting Part 8 straps on the back instead, because you can adjust that 3 ways. I thought, well, because ultimately my Jason costume, I do want to have elements that call back to 6, 7, 8, and 9. That sounds like an idea. So I can have
Yeah,
that part 8 flavor
somebody who,
with the part 9 mask on the front, part 7 face underneath, and part 7 body. Except I'd really like the underhood mask to be like an amalgamation of 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's just like not a generic zombie Jason, but like, you know, it kind of takes all the elements, all the sort of best parts. Because
well, like
Mortal Kombat has its zombie Jason, and he's just so plain, and they didn't do anything for the face.
Yeah. Is it okay? Is it me, or it like not just the design, but is it me, or is his intro and outro a little lame?
I don't mind the one where he's like dragging the body and drops it.
Yeah.
But the other one where he just pulls a knife out of his neck, I'm like, okay, cool.
Well, like there's one of his outros that kind of gets me, where he leaves the fight and he pulls off his mask and like throws it into the dirt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, like I saw that, I'm like, why is he even doing that? Why would he bother?
Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah. I have Mortal Kombat X on my computer, and I so badly want to learn how to edit textures, because I'm like, if I can do that, I can put myself into Mortal Kombat X. As I get, torn apart by Triborg and Leatherface. There was
You can see this guy has blanks for the splatter mask. He's got the Casey Jones 2016 blank. I'm just trying to see if he has the other one.
I'm not seeing it through here, but
you have to go to miscellaneous items and then click through the blank mask, blank fiberglass masks, and then from there. And what I actually thought was interesting was under Fibro Sport and other vintage masks was actually taking the original Part 3 and like having it look more like it did before too many of the alterations. But it's so crazy. Like the legacy of where that mask came from, even before it ended up on oh god, it's been so long, on Richard Brooker's face, like from the back of the trunk to the props table to Richard Brooker, like even just that, and then from Part 3
wish we had
the legacy onwards.
I wish we had something to just put on this monster character, and then one of the props guys was like, I have a hockey mask in my trunk. Do we want to try that?
Yeah.
Well, like, one of the more threatening shots in the entire Friday the 13th franchise, at least for me, was when the first time he steps out onto that dock.
Yeah.
Like, when you first see him and he's just standing there, and he's spooky as all hell. And also the shot, I believe, Part 4? No. Ah, shucks. Which one had Corey Feldman?
Yeah, 4. Yeah.
Okay, good. But when he just barrels through the front door of the house.
Yeah.
And like that, so I have this argument all the time with my friends and family of like, well, who's scarier, Freddy or Jason? I am firmly in the ballpark of Jason is scarier because there's no feasible way you can stop him.
Yeah.
Especially if you're unprepared in the woods with him.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, Freddy, like, especially because Freddy's ability to kill does rely on people's fear. So, because I think even at the start of the first movie, he wasn't able to kill until the second time around. And once that fear picked up, that's when he was able to kill more. And it's not until like the third movie that he was able to draw, and also because like everyone drugged themselves to be asleep, but generally people fall asleep around the same time. But it wasn't until the third movie that he's caused so much damage that he can draw several people into the one nightmare.
Well, I even like the idea in like Freddy vs. Jason, like even knowing his name puts you at risk.
Yeah.
And like they even like there's a very real fear that's associated with that where like one of the cops is like, "Oh, it has to be him. It has to be Freddy Krueger." And the chief's like, "Don't you say that son of a bitch's name."
Yeah.
And like that I think for all of its faults, I think that's one of the cooler parts of Freddy vs.
Yes. There was a lot of great concepts, and even throughout the like Nightmare on Elm Street 4 through 6, good concepts, but not the best execution. And same could be said for a lot of Friday the 13th movies, but they still like managed to land it a bit better than most of the Nightmare movies. And that's the one thing, like, if you want to see like crazy over the top special effects, you go to Nightmare on Elm Street. If you want to see a bit more grounded but still great special effects and the biggest kill count, you go to Friday the 13th.
If you want to see great practical effects, you go to Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Discounting the bed kill from the first Nightmare on Elm Street, because
that was good.
Still
that
fantastic.
Was good. Like, because like the first 3 Nightmare on Elm Street movies were great. Like, if you want, I guess what I meant to say is if you want good, like consistently good throughout the franchise with practical effects, Friday the 13th. But if you want good for the first half, then you want Nightmare on Elm Street. But you're not gonna see too many kills, but they'll all be really good. Except for the second one. There's plenty of kills in the second one, but most of them are actually by his hand, as opposed to a lot of other kills in this franchise, which are a myriad of ways. He doesn't even use it as much as you think he would.
Well, because I think it's because the characters just spend so much time, you know, I'm like, well, guess we can't sleep, so we just gotta stay awake forever.
Yeah. But, like, if you want, I think Halloween nailed it with suspense, mood lighting, and everything else in those first 2 movies. And then the remake was pretty good. But, Halloween, you don't really watch that for the sequels. Whereas Friday the 13th has a better sort of sequel longevity.
Well, wasn't it the Halloween franchise that just turned into kind of a fever dream?
Which one?
Like, anyone after 3. It's like, oh, look, there's a cult, but that's why Michael's invincible, is because of this cult.
Yeah. Halloween kind of just went crazy.
See, that's... Whenever I talk about a franchise that has just gone downhill, or it did just dip into madness there for a bit, the sound you made is the sound that everybody makes, which is just kind of the... Yeah...
Yeah.
And, like,
Like, I mean, even Halloween 3, I did like the idea of like trying to tell different stories, and how like the first one, and then later on the first two was supposed to be sort of like a contained story, and even Friday the 13th was supposed to be a contained story. So like the first movie was supposed to be like one thing, and the second movie was supposed to be an entirely different curse. So it wasn't even meant to have the same location or anything. But they still could have actually done roughly the same location. They could have done basically what they did with Part 5, and just have like just this like Indian burial ground style sort of like this whole town is cursed. So
Well,
and then they came up with Supernatural. So
yeah. Well, like there was, so I just remembered like a major plot hole, and hear me out here. Friday the 13th remake. It starts with that flashback of Pamela getting decapitated, right?
Yep.
And you see it from kid Jason's point of view as he's sitting in the bushes.
Yeah.
So, is it then arguable that the rest of the movie wouldn't have happened if Jason literally ran out and went, "Hey mom, I'm not dead"?
Yeah. Because what I would have imagined is, because the lake's so large, if he was like just further down the way and happened to be walking by, and then he hears the struggle and he hears his mum and he runs over, and then but he's still like too far away, far enough that he can like hear something and maybe just be able to make out that it's his mother, but not enough to like really scream out, especially with them like tussling against each other and screaming.
Well, I mean, Jason also is supposed to be mute, right? So
Except that he does make some grunts here and there, but he's also like that kind of like he doesn't like conflict. You could kind of get that about him. Like he would have like, at least in that more innocent stage, would have been like, he's like very shy of humans. Like that, Mowgli Jungle Book kind of like, oh, what's going on here? Like,
oh, it's mom and somebody I don't know,
Yeah.
so I'm just gonna stay back.
yeah. And he's like hoping his mom's gonna win the fight, and then she gets decapitated, and then, but by that point he's like in his early 30s, I think.
I think I'd ballpark that.
Yeah. In the remake, they made him 12. But then, like, they...
Oh, you're saying he's in his early 30s when Pamela dies?
In the original, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. Because, like, yeah, it seems like something she's just been harboring for years.
Yeah, because in the originals, he's dead in, like, 1957 or 8. And then you fast forward to... and she kills the council's responsible the next year. And then, almost 30 years passes after that. Or just over 30 years in 1979. When they go to, bring the camp back again. All of her previous attempts at keeping it closed down, they get around all that. And it's like, no, we're going to put 100% into this. We're making this happen. And she's just not happy with that.
It's going to be such fun. Guess I got to murder again.
Yep. Like, I've tried everything else. I've tried poisoning the well or whatever. But, you've gone so far as hiring counselors to do the place up. I just can't let you open this place up again.
Everything shy of just burning it to the ground.
Yeah. So I think there was actually an attempt at arson. I think the truck driver mentions that.
Yeah, somebody probably tried to burn it and it just didn't take.
Yeah, someone got there in time. But and then so she kills everyone except Alice. Jason at like, let's say if he was 13 in 1958, he would have been like 31 in 79, and then kills. I think it was actually meant to be 10. I don't think they thought about it at the time to make him 13, but let's just do it that way. So he's like in his early 30s. He sees Pamela die. Like, I would presume he just runs away, but I think there's like a separate kind of curse on Crystal Lake, which is how she was attacked by a younger Jason. Like, there's just obviously something bigger involved in all of it. But like, and the essence of his youth would have died in that lake.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I always chalked it up to like fatigue and like being tired.
Yeah, it could
like
have been
that's why she
something
sees.
like that.
Like, she's just like all the shit she just went through, and then
Yeah, and
like,
just thinking about Jason, it could have been one of two things. It could be that, like, because she also just woke up, and she could have had one of those things like where you have that sensation that you're falling when you're kind of asleep.
Yeah.
She could have had that and accidentally, like,
tip the boat,
knocked herself over, and then in her head she manifests it as Jason doing it. Because when you're dreaming, you always sort of dream of falling, but you're just lying in bed. So, like, in her head, she could have manifested that, or the lake manifested it. Could be either.
So, like, what would your ideal Friday the 13th movie look like?
As in,
because personally, I want another Jason Takes Manhattan, but on a grander scale.
Yeah, that would be good. It'd be sort of harder to do, because even doing Manhattan, budget cuts or not, just because there's so many people, like, he works better in a contained environment. Like, even when in Freddy vs. Jason, you had that whole cornfield, and he just knocks off like 5 people, 6 people, however many.
Walks into a party.
He's just like slashing all over the place, and people are just running for their lives.
Well, have you seen the fan film Never Hike Alone?
Yeah.
Okay, I love horror movies that do that, and I think Friday the 13th might be the best version of that, of a completely isolated incident with one person.
Yeah. Well, because there's always for that, like, with the video that I did, introducing the Part 3 hockey mask in my own way, because I got it from Crash Cunningham, and I'm like, how am I going to introduce this to the channel? I don't want to just do an unboxing. I want to, like,
hey,
bring it in with some lore. So it's like an unboxing, but it's not. So the script that I settled on, given that I could only tend to get one actor to be there at any one time, and because trying to do the urbex angle was a bit difficult, I thought, well, what if I just went the prank perspective? So he's pranking people based on Jason's look in Part 2. Like, people have had sightings of him and stuff like that, and people have disappeared, and that, like, you always have to give it some sort of lore, like, things have happened.
and like people think they can go out there and have fun, and because no one wants to go out there, and then they go missing. So, and then some people have been in the area and they've managed to see him from a distance, or I think they see him, and that's the other thing I think about with, like, if you look at the movies from a like a crime standpoint, everyone has their idea of what Jason looked like. So even with the like some of the inconsistencies with, oh, he had hair or he didn't have hair, or like in part 2 when she imagines he had long hair, that could have been tree branches. Like, she could have felt tree branches, but her account of it is that his hair draped over her as he pulled her back through the window, because
as he dives through a window.
There's no Paul for that account because he's gone. So, like, when people are under that much stress, their account of the situation may not be accurate. And in part 3, he's got no hair, but in part 4, he has a bit of hair out the back of his head, which you see towards the end of the movie. So it's like, well, which is it?
Well, I think Freddy vs. Jason in the remake kind of did it the worst, where he just has like this tuft of hair off the side of his head.
Yeah.
And like, it's really distracting, at least for me. It's like, you just remove it, you'll be fine. Just please.
I think because they were looking at the legacy of Jason Goes to Hell, where he's got the 3 different tufts of hair.
Yeah. And like, so if you were to put the ideally, I like this.
Oh yeah, so ideally with a Friday the 13th film, I don't like to talk about it much.
I forgot to end the question as well. Ideal Friday the 13th movie with you as the star. So if you weren't directing and you were Jason Voorhees, where would it be?
So that one's easier. Ideally, it would be based on the Jason Takes Omegle idea, which borrows a lot of different elements. When I look back on it, there's the Freddy vs. Jason element of fear being the driving force, and with the this 90s movie Ghost in the Machine. So, because the basic concept of Jason Takes Omegle is that physically he's still in the lake, but then his soul has kind of shifted into the digital plane, and it's trying to find where it can spread fear. So it's
and that happens to be Omegle.
Yeah, so he's manifested a kind of phantom on Omegle, and it spooks people out, and then that phantom can then manifest into the bedrooms of some of these people if there's enough fear, and then actually be able to kill them. And then other people on Omegle witness that, and then it sort of snowballs until Jason can then rise again, and then that would, as far as the channel's concerned, go into like public pranks, where he's risen from the lake again. But then I wanted to be able to, like, as a film, be able to like take some of those moments, but then splice a proper film around it.
Okay. So that is really cool. like well, when I first saw your channel, I'm like, oh, it's just a guy doing pranks.
Yeah, there was definitely a bigger idea around it, even from the beginning. And
I really like that idea, and I've been toying with stuff for my channel too, like the idea that the mask itself is its own entity.
Yeah.
Like you could be so like for instance, I'm like 6'2",
Yeah.
right? But if somebody were like 5'5" and they put on the mask, they just become me, 6'2", and my build.
So it'd be like a twist on Jason Goes to Hell, but instead of eating the heart, if he just like pried the mask off the face, if something just like drew him to pry the mask off and then wear it, it's got Jason's blood and skin still on it, and the whole thing just goes, Jim Carrey's The Mask, and just
the idea is if the mask doesn't have a host, if it's by itself, whoever sees it is immediately drawn to put it on.
Yeah.
But it can be removed normally, like any other mask, and they'll just revert back to who they were before.
Yeah.
But like if you touch the mask, like if you pick up the mask in your hands, you can hear like my voice coming from it.
Mm.
And
or actually,
and I'm not like.
What if it was?
What's up?
Can you hear it?
I hear something.
It's probably too quiet. Hang on.
Oh, like the Jason, like.
Yeah. If you just hear like the call to kill.
Well, the thing is, like, no, I'm not a killer. I'm more of a goofball. I'm not out to hurt anybody. But I like there's an idea that was early on where it's like, I like the idea of like people I interact with treating me like I'm a serial killer, but I don't do anything that's inherently threatening.
Mm.
They're like, Jesus Christ, what is that? I'm like, hey man, check out my channel. Have a nice day. And they're just like, oh god.
Well, that's funny too, because like I kind of get that from more of a creative perspective, where like say, I mean, number one, when my channel was completely demonetized, and it was like 2 months before they implemented the tools to be able to review everything, and most of the videos were restored, but like being banned off YouNow, even just like the random bans on Omegle, but going to places like VidCon, there was no, like, I looked in the rules first before I even went, and there was nothing cosplay wise that was going to be an issue. Even with like having the machete, there was.
Do they allow masks?
Hmm?
Do they allow masks at VidCon?
Hmm?
Do they allow like wearing masks where you can't see the face at VidCon?
Well, the answer is no, but it wasn't in the rules. When I went to VidCon, that was not in the rules. There was like, so when I looked at the rules, I'm like, okay, there's no problem. I went there 2 years ago, and
problem.
Like, there was no problem when I was waiting in the queue to get in. There was no problem when I did get in. I walked around for like 5 minutes, checking out the different vendors that were around, stopping for photos. And then all of a sudden, a security guard pulls me aside and wants me to take my masks off and stop the Jason sound. I'm like, well, I'm not going to do it on the ground floor. And I know this convention center, and you should have access to a room just off the side there, and I'd prefer if there was some sort of like mediator with what you're about to say to me. So she organized all that. And we were talking about it, and well, the first thing that the security guard said, like, because she wanted me to take all that stuff off, I'm like, it wasn't in the rules. Like, what's the issue? And she said, it doesn't fit well with our brand.
Brand.
Yeah, with the brand of VidCon.
What's the brand? What young, thin, happy people with nice hair? What's that the brand?
Yeah, well, 90210 without the drama, or Disney.
You know, Jason fits in 90210. I see no problem there.
I mean, Jason Goes to Hell feels like 90210 with Jason in there, but
I would love to see like a teen drama that just happens to have Jason just wrecking shit every couple episodes.
well, that's kind of how I feel a Friday the 13th movie works. Is that you have to have that. Like, part 4 definitely did it the best. Like,
Well, with the Double Mint twins? With the Double Mint twins and Crispin Glover?
yeah, but like the whole interaction with everyone. Like, everyone's like, you know, you got the character development, you know, you feel for these people, there's sympathy there. But like, they're just there doing what they do, and then Jason suddenly just comes in and wrecks their day. That's how I see a Friday the 13th movie. You're supposed to have like an idyllic, secluded like location, and everyone doing what they probably shouldn't be doing, and then someone comes in and just wrecks it.
Like, the movie almost has to start with somebody going, "This is gonna be the best weekend ever,"
Basically.
and then cut to Jason like crawling out of the lake.
Yeah. So one idea I had, which would sort of be kind of a bigger Jason Takes Manhattan, would be like there was that movie like The Real Cancun. Basically that. Or similarly to it, there was that incident a few years ago where you had I think it was Fire Festival.
Yeah.
So imagine Fire Festival, right? The exact same scenario. You had all this money like poured into it, and then
For a
huge amount of people just rock up, and there's nothing there. There's no proper way to get home. You've got a few tents. You got this and that. You had people trying to make the best of it, and it all just like it's just falling apart. Imagine that, and then just to make your day a little bit worse, like it was supposed to be this whole ideal weekend, but then everything goes wrong, and when you thought it couldn't get any worse and you try to make the best of it, Jason comes in and just bulldozes the whole thing over. That's a movie.
Well, I also like the idea that for like the first 5 minutes, of Jason being on screen, one of the other partygoers thinks that that's just a guy in a costume.
Yeah.
Look at this nerd dressing up for the festival. There's nothing here, and I'm not. So he gets stabbed.
Yeah.
Like that. That was one of the funnier parts of what was it?
Freddy versus Jason.
Freddy versus. Yeah.
Whoa, who we got here? Well, hey, Jethro. This is a rave party, not a Halloween party. Yeah, invite only, Poke, and you weren't invited. Son of a bitch.
I love that. Just perfect. Like, just head backwards. It's over.
Yeah. And that's why a lot of Friday the 13th kills were, and probably worked for a long time, was that it was just quick, dead. That's it. Although what made Hatchet work was, instead of cutting away, because there was no MPAA interference with it, it's like when like the start of the movie, so you get to see some of it but not all of it. But when he comes running out of that cabin and he like hacks into that first guy, like I thought they were just going to go hack and then toss the body, like a Friday the 13th movie, or anything really. Like most kills, it's just like stab, and then push them to a side. But then he just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going and just chopping away like a tree, and then tosses the first half of the body. I'm like, thank you.
Huh?
It's like you just didn't stop, because it's that kind of like, you know, when that sort of thing happens, you like look away, and then by the time you look back, it's over. But you gotta wait for Crowley to finish. He's not done yet. And then he just runs after the wife, grabs her, and you're like, what's going to happen here? And he just pulls, and like, not too fast, not too slow, but just like the right speed, just pulls it up and over. And then tosses that body, and then gets shot, and everyone runs. And it just wouldn't stop. It just kept going.
So if given the opportunity, would you play Jason in like a feature length Friday the 13th movie?
Absolutely.
And
the opportunity has come up in the past, but because I live in Australia and a lot of people that want to do it live in the US or even in Europe, there's a lot kind of holding that back.
If you could do a versus movie, like who would you say your matchup would be? Other than Freddy.
Other than Freddy, because that's I mean it's the easiest and the obvious one. And I actually do know like a guy that does Freddy Krueger pretty good, as we all know, if you watch my videos. But I would like to go like toe to toe with him, and even the Michael that I know. But a Silent Michael versus Silent Jason movie, like there's actually these guys in Adelaide that are doing that, but then obviously I'm not involved. But I don't know, I don't like, everyone is sort of like doing things like that. There's sort of like you can go anywhere and get like go to a Southern Fried Chicken store, right? And then there's KFC, which I don't know quite what it's like over in America, but it's actually pretty good in Australia, and we have good food standards too. So, you know, and there's still usually some KFC stores are better than others, but you know, there's what you make at home, and then there's the good stuff. That's the basic idea. Like, there's the secret ingredients, and while a lot of, especially like obviously the family movies are doing these like great things, on the one hand it's like they are really good, but at the same time that like Hollywood's not doing anything to, like, they're not bothering to try top it. So like, this is as good as we're gonna get. But like,
what?
Sometimes, I mean, Hollywood makes a lot of flops, but when they get it right, they get it right. And obviously, like, if they don't think it's gonna work, and sometimes the whole like formula thing gets in their own way, but sometimes like if they don't think it's gonna work, they're not gonna try. Whereas fans at least make a good effort, and a lot of it like does work in a lot of the ways. But I feel like there's like just like a little secret ingredient that would just take it from where we're at with fan films now to the next level, and we just haven't thought it yet.
Yeah, well, I think with fan films, a lot of the times it really depends on the genre.
Yeah.
Like superhero fan films kind of seem to fall just a little bit flat in some regards.
Yeah.
But I can appreciate the effort and time that was put into it. But then I think horror really lends itself to just this wider range of things you can do with it.
Yeah.
Like instead of being like a committee of writers, like, well, what are what are the audiences gonna like? It's like, all right, what do I want to see on camera?
Yeah, yeah, and what the fans
And
want
like,
to see, like, it's difficult because it's the same kind of thing, like debate people have with people that vote. Like, should you have to have, I guess, like a proven written sort of like understanding of politics before you get the right to vote? Like, should you acquire a license like you would acquire a driver's license to be able to vote? Because, like, I've had lots of people suggest things to me for my Omegle videos, and there are just things that would not work, either budget wise or like they don't understand the limitations of what you can do on Omegle, and even just things that are just way too like weird for Jason. Like, some people have suggested to use things like Wireshark to be able to like work out someone's location and then type it into them and say, I know where you live, and then you know
I mean, that's just messed up at that point.
yeah, it's messed up at that point. But why would Jason type?
What?
Why would like Jason's not going to sit there, put his machete down and start like typing away and say, oh yeah, you live in like Burbank, California. Like,
well, I mean, that's what I've been, that's what I've been imagining this entire interview is you and full Jason get up just scrolling through photos of masks.
yeah. But obviously he wouldn't do anything like that, and like I've heard some dumb ideas in the past, and like for that, like, and even like some more popular ideas, I kind of sit there and think, nah, especially with like newer friends of the franchise that go back through the back catalog. I mean, technically, I've done the same thing, but I did it from the perspective of the 90s, before Freddy vs. Jason, and even before Jason X. Like, a lot of my...
I think you got in there pretty early before it became almost a sort of a joke unto itself to have Jason in popular media.
Yeah, like, people in the 90s still took it pretty seriously, even with, like, on The Simpsons, but it's just like, oh, Friday the 13th is tame by today's standards. And that was like 1990, talking about a movie 10 years ago.
Yeah. But then, you look at stuff nowadays, like, I think it was last year or the year before, Terrifier came out. And that movie went places I haven't seen a horror movie go in a long time.
Yeah.
In terms of ways to take apart a person.
Yeah.
And so, like, that really just, like, alright, oh, shit. Like, I think what hurts a lot of horror movies nowadays, even if they're big budget ones, I think marketing really hurts.
Yeah. I mean, because usually, I mean, big movies, they spend as much, if not double, what they did on the movie to market it, and you, in a way, like with horror, it's like, hey, like, if you really try to like push a horror movie, it's just kind of like, I guess, like how it feels normally for like ourselves. Like, we try to get like people excited about this thing, or like, hey, check out this song I just discovered, and they sit there and you're like, so what do you think? And they're like, or even
I think...
or even like, oh, you gotta watch this movie with me, and then they're like, they're on their phone or they're doing something else during like a bit that you're like, you gotta see this bit, and they're not even watching.
That's like, that hurts me right in my soul. What you just sit there, I'm like, I've had that so many times, like, check out this video, or like
and their interest wanes just as it's getting to the good bit, and then they don't see it properly, and you got to rewind it, and they got to go through it again, and like sometimes you got to add context to it.
So the thing is, so you know how Twitter does those little small ads where it's almost like an ad that prefaces the actual commercial.
Mm.
It's like a 3-second clip of like something standing in the dark, then it's like, the curse of the lake, and then it shows the full trailer.
Yeah. I've seen those. Yeah.
The thing is, if they just cut it down to that 3-second segment, that gets my attention. That's fantastic. Like there's a movie coming out, I think soon. It's called Brightburn, and it's sort of this weird, I would say directly horror take, but it's almost like dark sci-fi take on the origin of Superman without being Superman. But it's like same basic concept. Kid, gets launched down to Earth in a rocket, super powered. But it's like, what if that kid was a sociopath? What if he was evil? And like that alone, like, and it's the fact that you don't see him as an adult. He's like 10 and he's like murdering people.
Wow.
But he's like flying around and shooting lasers from his eyes. I'm like, oh shit, like that's awesome. I love it. And then there's a shot that they showed for one of the stingers on Twitter, and it's just the perfect little tidbit, and then they kind of ruin it with the rest of the trailer. And it's this shot of the kid standing in the rain, and it's just like his head in frame, and his eyes are glowing red like he's gonna use laser vision. And he just starts screaming, just and then it cuts to the word Brightburn. And just like, yeah, and then it's like, something's wrong with our kid, and it's like, shit. I always like to personify the conversations I have on the show as constantly driving off a cliff, because it's always derailed. We've never been on the tracks.
Nope.
But I do have some questions to follow up with. And I think if you want, we can wrap this up.
Yeah, I think
because
I got a bit lost on the whole like YouTube channel thing. So, when I started going to conventions again and started going as Jason, just by walking around and just like, moving that certain way and everything else like that, it was just as effective, if not more effective, than people just running around chasing people in a hockey mask. And that just felt much more powerful, because then if I'm that scary and I'm not coming after you yet, how much scarier would it be when I do? And I started attending like zombie walks and that sort of thing, and it was getting really popular, and the costume kept looking better year after year between 2010 and 2015. And it's at that point that I wanted to make a new YouTube channel, and I started getting that idea probably 2013, 2014. But originally, what I was going to do didn't have anything to do with Jason. But I got the idea, I didn't even remember where, to do Omegle pranks. Like, I'd seen a few. I don't think I saw too many horror-related ones, but I knew I wanted to do pranks. And the first idea was actually go on and play guitar, but play clean, and especially like play a song that people could kind of like recognize.
Yeah.
Where it would have a clean intro, and then just hammer the distortion pedal on, and then they get ear raped.
And just derail the whole thing.
Yeah. So I think if you kind of similar to this other channel, K-Mac, he doesn't do it as an Omegle prank, but he would do like, I think it was like Hey Jude, and then just like, and then all of a sudden death metal just but you know, have the distortion levels a little bit higher. So, and when I'd see people, I could tell if they could hear me or not, because then like I could hear like my own guitar on their end on the clean, and then when I know I've got them, boom, in with the heavy stuff.
So what instruments do you play?
Just guitar mostly. I did have a Yamaha keyboard around. I think I left that up in Sydney, but it's this really ancient keytar. But the guitar I play is an Ibanez 7-string, and then that goes through. It goes through a multi-effects pedal with the expression, and that's where you hear the Jason sound come from. And I'll get into that in a moment. And then I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Currently 11. I had more, but some died. These vintage style pedals, so they have very few knobs on them, and very early era circuitry boards where you could still like solder things together very easily if you wanted to repair them, which has been the case sometimes. But so that was actually the setup I was using playing guitar on Omegle, was to be able to have all these crazy sound effects and blast people's ears with them. But then like I wasn't really feeling it. Like it sounded great like in concept, but I got bored with it really fast. And then I thought, well, what if I went on Omegle as Jason? Now I started doing that, but I didn't involve the pedal board at that point. I just went on and I was completely silent. So no one heard anything from me for the first year and a half before I actually started recording. But then when I realized that my expression pedal had the loop effect in it, so you could like record a sound effect into it and then play it back by tapping it on and off, that's why I'm like, hang on, like I'm already getting okay reactions with this, but what would happen if I, like, being hands free, because I didn't want to use like a soundboard, like be able to like reach towards the screen, raise the machete, and then with one of my feet just like tap the sound on and off and give it that extra layer. And it worked. Great idea. Glad I thought of it. And it was at that point that I'm like, I'm ready to turn this into a YouTube channel. And then I started making some of the assets for the channel, like pictures and stuff like that. And then when I first went on and started like recording this stuff, it was March 13th, 2015. So that was a Friday the 13th that I started recording the Omegle videos. And I thought I could actually record it, edit it, and upload it the same day. That wasn't the case. It took another week or two to be able to get enough footage, because I wasn't going on that often, and it takes about a week to actually record them. It takes like 4 days, well, yeah, 4 days, but with like 6 hours of recording each day. So you need about 24 hours of recordings to get enough sort of suitable reactions, or at least that's the case for series 2 onward. And you can tell the difference between series 1 and then every other series moving forward. But back then I was lazy about it, took a couple weeks, and then I hadn't even made the channel yet because I didn't want to like make the channel on Friday the 13th and not have any content on it. So I made it on March 31st, which is on Friday the 13th backwards. But in Australia, that's also April 1st, so it's an April Fool's Day. Nice. And then that's when the first video went up. And then after that, because I had to make a few more graphics, I didn't even have an intro at the start at first. I uploaded that, deleted it, added the intro, and then re-uploaded it. And that's the origin story.
See, I like yours because you had a cohesive idea, and just almost like just a perfect evolution into what it is now.
Yeah, and even then, like, I wasn't even supposed to call it Jason Takes Omegle. That was supposed to be just one series because I wanted to do like other Omegle pranks with different characters. But Jason was definitely going to be like the headliner. I even still have some of the playlists that I sort of wrote up and then like saved it privately as sort of like a reminder to go on back and do those. So, but I couldn't think of a different channel name to sort of encompass everything. So I just stuck with Jason Takes Omegle, and then I got stuck doing that for like 3 years.
Well, I mean, you know, for what it's worth, that's actually really good. Channel name.
Yeah, it really worked. Like, it'll still work definitely as a series name as it does. But, and soon enough, I actually do want to rebrand the whole channel with the new channel name that you can see on Twitter and elsewhere, with Channel 13, because the sort of idea, and it's again like one of those sort of SCP kind of things, is that you have a cursed TV and it's like an old analog one, and the only channel that it tunes into is like Channel 13, and no other TV can tune into this channel. And then so when you watch it, like, you just witness these happenings on there. So it's, in a way, it's kind of like the whole like Crypt Keeper, you know, Twilight Zone kind of thing.
Kind of like sort of an anthology thing. Like an anthology sort of deal.
Yeah. So you have like, it just means that I'm able to make like other series of videos that sort of tie in, and they're all sort of interconnected in a way, and it allows me to do the videos that I would want to do, but without sort of falling into this trap of like other things that I don't want to do with the channel. So I still get to like, because some people want me to do like vlogs and stuff like that, and I don't want to do it in the capacity of myself doing vlogs. But I want to introduce characters like Chop Top and Leatherface, and have Chop Top basically solo doing the sort of vlog stuff, and even rant videos, like taking it more from House of a Thousand Corpses, with the sort of those sort of contained rant scenes that you get from Milo. Otis. That's why I got the names mixed up, because it's that movie with the dogs. Otis has his like little rants during the movie with that sort of backdrop behind him. So I wanted to recreate something like that, but with Chop Top from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. But then Leatherface would have the appearance from the first movie, because it's just so much better than the sequel.
Yeah.
So it's like, you just take that hitchhiker from the first movie and just replace him with Bill Moseley the whole way through, just wreck on the whole thing. But then together, as Chop Top and Leatherface, I want to do cooking with Leatherface, where he brings the protein At the beginning
Just
of
a slab of meat.
Hmm?
Just a slab of meat.
Yeah, but they're still kicking and screaming. So he's got to take them through the kitchen into the back area, and he's got to put them to sleep, and then bring out the protein for that episode. And Chop Top the whole way through is telling Leatherface how to cook it, and by doing so, he's also telling the audience. So, because otherwise, Leatherface can't exactly tell you how to do it. So he's just there doing the cooking portion, and Chop Top's there with the little handy cam, directing the whole show and yelling at Leatherface and telling him he's doing this and that wrong and so on and so forth. So he's just berating him the whole time. But that's just like one of many things that I want to be able to do to like expand on the channel, so it's not just the Omegle thing over and over. And of course I want to do like short film stuff with Jason and expand on the whole now having several costumes. Like Jason's existence is glitching out between like his zombie self, which is I guess what you can say his modern Inception, and then you have like earlier iterations bleeding in and out of time. Just have that variety. So, yeah.
They were just like having glitched to like versions like as the like the how the public like this real life public sees the character Jason Voorhees.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Because it'd be kind of like if you grew up with this particular Jason, this is the one that you see, then other people see something else.
You get a group of kids that see the was it the NES Jason?
Yeah, I'm still thinking about doing that, like developing that costume more, because I kind of did a very casual version of it when that DLC came out, because I already had the glow in the dark mask. And then I also want to do my own version of Jason X/Uber Jason down the line, based on a drawing I did in the late 90s. Like, because I'd known by that point, obviously, like, there's 9 movies so far, but there wasn't a 10th one yet. And I'm like, well, what would that be like? And at the time I was like, post-apocalyptic future Terminator. Okay, he's kind of like dead, so they kind of like he's like decomposed in pieces. Let's like build cybernetic parts and put him back together. So it'd be less refined, but he would be sort of like, I mean, games at the time that I would play, like Quake. So like Jason, but a lot more like the Quake monster or the Terminator, but just like a very gruesome Jason with, with his skin stretched over metal kind of deal. That's what I thought it would be. Someone, two feuding people in a war, and Jason, like, one side finds Jason and they want to put him back together to be able to defeat the other side, and then he becomes both of their problems. Which, given that Jason X starts with the world being destroyed, like, it would have been like just before that point of destruction kind of deal.
I even like the I like the imagery of just of Jason just wandering a wasteland. Yeah. I want Jason in Fallout.
I mean, they've kind of done that, but
oh no, I just like, oh look, there's not very many people left, and then just Jason just tearing down his settlement.
Yeah.
You want to trade bottle caps? Stab, stab, stab.
I mean, it's not like it's not like anything like an apocalypse would even stop him. If there's any amount of Jason left, it would just regenerate, regrow, and then on his way again.
That's also a fun image. Just Jason just crawling out of a pile of ashes.
Yeah.
So you said you wanted to work on some new costumes when you do rebrand the channel as Channel 13.
Yeah.
Are you gonna do pre-established characters, or are you gonna do new characters as well?
Yeah, I do want to start adding my own in because they're also on that to-do list of playlists. One of them, and someone actually pulled me up on it, like, your channel's just like an established character, you don't have anything for your own sort of like character and all that. And at the time it was strictly a budget thing, and still is for the most part. But I did want to do my own original stuff, and one of them is the Shadow Minister. So it would be kind of like imagining like when you would hold the flashlight under your chin and the way that it casts a shadow over your face, that as sort of like a makeup kind of thing, but also still have lighting around you to kind of like boost it up a bit.
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah, because a lot of that sort of inspiration comes from those Nightmare or Atmosphere board games. Because so much of it was lighting.
Yeah, Nightmare.
Like, you had the makeup effects, but the lighting was, especially as the game went on, it just become more and more present.
If I remember, Nightmare is the one with the fellow in the robe who gets more decrepit as the game goes on.
Yeah, that one's the Harbinger. And then the second one's Baron Samedi. Third one's Anne de Sontrain. And the fourth one is Elizabeth Bathory.
But I think we played the first one. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be the Harbinger. Yeah.
And, like... So... Okay.
And there's actually, on my channel, there's a privated video, which is like the first 15 seconds that tells you to turn the volume up and turn the lights down. But like completely original footage of it, not like ripped from the VHS or the DVD, but entirely new footage. And it was, again, it's just a concept I came out with a long time ago, but it's just a matter of budget and other things going on, and even just like extensively going through the rules and like how many times should I appear during the entire thing, and building an original character for it, because it wouldn't work with Jason, obviously.
You could do, it would be well, I mean, I'm not saying just rip it off, but you could do like almost an evil like a Max Headroom.
Yeah, basically. But one thing was that it would be great to have a Freddy Krueger one. That would be great.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then, but you would have it like someone sort of with a bit of makeup to make him look more like make him look more like, names are escaping me today. Sorry, the one that actually plays Freddy Krueger. The name Wes Craven keeps coming to mind, but it's like, no, he made Freddy Krueger, not.
You mean Robert Englund?
Yeah, Yeah, so make someone look more like Robert Englund. Like the living Freddy. I think you see it in like Nightmare on Elm Street 6. You get to see like living Freddy.
Yeah, it's like Dream Master.
Yeah, and even in Freddy vs. Jason, but like have him appear more human, and then as the game goes on, like the Andis on Train one with the witch, you would have the flames starting off small and they get larger and larger. But I'd probably have like the incinerator in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just have it a little out of focus with flames in the front. And that would be during the timer bits. And then as time goes on, you add more and more makeup as Freddy's getting burned. So it's like what he would have experienced inside of like 3 to 5 minutes of pain and anguish, stretch that over the course of like 60 minutes.
And like even then, every time he appears, like the fire gets a little bit more into the screen.
Yeah. Yeah. So that, because I've seen some like original Nightmare ones, and they're usually in like French. So it's like, well, there is still an English audience. It's still obviously popular in other countries, and Nightmare actually is Australian made.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, completely Australian. And then obviously, like I don't know if they actually sold the rights off down the line, but no, that started up in Australia. So that was interesting even for me to find out.
So with the whole, Channel 13 branding come up, how soon were you thinking of, like, just going over to that, or is it going to be a very gradual change?
I did want it to be a bit more sudden, especially once, like, I'd wanted to have some of the videos recorded before I jump over into it. And it's been something I've been wanting to do for, like, almost 2 years now, because my channel, as you probably realize with all the dates, it just turned 4. So it's 4 years and 8 days of this recording.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, thanks. So, but I mean, some people in my sort of like inner circles online can tell you that I've been wanting to do like even the cooking with Leatherface for the longest time, but there's just been a lot of things in my life that sort of has gotten in the way, especially with my PC dying like almost 2 years ago now, and then just having to like get the money together to fix that when there's other priorities in life, food, rent, all that. But and even just like how much some of the costumes can cost, and I'm not middle class, I'm not welfare class, I'm just hovering above it.
Yeah.
So
same.
And because that's the other thing with like branding and that sort of stuff as well. You have so many people that do YouTube channels, especially some of the more like easily successful ones, where it's e-boys and e-girls. They got the hair, the face, the lighting, all that. I've never been about that.
Well, there was a moment where, it's you know what, I should make that a shirt or a mug or something. Just the phrase. It's gonna sound terrible, but please let me explain.
Yep.
But a lot of the stuff that I've done on this channel, even Demasked as a whole, like this is what, episode 6, 7, because it does take a little bit to in between episodes to get a hold of somebody and get the plan sorted out.
Yep.
But a lot of it, well, almost the reason the channel exists is almost entirely out of spite.
Yeah. And
it's not like spite of somebody else. It's spite of myself. Like, there was a time where I'm like, man, I should make a YouTube channel because I think that'd be a lot of fun. and I'd love to meet other people who do stuff like this. And then, then like, there was a day where I'm like, oh, what's the point? I'm like, I won't ever get to do that. And then, like, I finally just had a day of like, why not? Just do it. Make a YouTube channel. If it sucks, it sucks. It's fine. Just go.
Yeah. Well,
and like
a lot of YouTube entrepreneurs even encourage that. Just like don't look for perfection. Like perfection is a journey. Don't try to get there day one. Not even day two. Not day like 1,000. It's down the end.
Well, like I think it's like two episodes ago, I told the person I was interviewing like that this show is completely informal, and I like it that way.
Yeah.
Like I use the metaphor of a car driving off a cliff, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, I kind of like that. There's no script for this show. It's a vague out. It's literally just a small thing of questions that I have, and no other prompt.
Yeah.
And the thing is, they're like what I desperately want out of this show, and which I feel like I've been doing okay with, is I want to ask people questions that I genuinely want to ask. Like I'm not a fan of watching those interview shows where they're interviewing celebrities and are like, so how did you like the movie that you were in and got paid $1 million to be in?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And it's the same question each person, and yeah.
And so, like, usually as a tradition that kind of started as a joke, and I feel like I should just carry on forever, is whoever I'm interviewing, whether it be you or everybody else, because I don't want to brag. But I try to look up something obscure about that person. And sometimes that falls flat. Like for you, I couldn't find very much like out of the way that I could bring up.
No, I try to keep it very contained.
Yeah, and you're doing a very good job of that. I couldn't find a single thing, but like a couple episodes ago, I interviewed David Thornton. He played Art the Clown in Terrifier.
Yeah.
And I'm digging through his IMDb page, and I find a game that he was in called Invisimals, which I've never heard of before.
Okay, neither have I.
And I saw it, and I'm like, and the thing is, same thing I told him, I tried everything. Wikipedia, articles, those certain wikis that are like quote-unquote fandom powered. I couldn't find a single piece of information about that game.
Wow.
All I saw was, hey, it was released on PS3, and that was on the IMDb page, the official Wikipedia, and the fan-made Wikipedia. Nothing. Not even a plot synopsis. So I had to ask David Thornton about it.
Especially being PS3 era, there's not like, some obscure game on the Commodore Amiga or, Dreamcast even.
And so, like, and it was just a burning question. I'm like, you probably know the answer. And, like, the best, we kind of came to the conclusion that it was sort of like a Pokemon equivalent. Like you're catching monsters. And, like, it's something I love to do, and I joked about it before I even, like, recorded my first thing of Demasked. I'm like, man, I would love to interview, like Ryan Reynolds. Because the questions wouldn't be, hey, what's it like being in Deadpool? Or, Green Lantern sucked, didn't it? I would start the thing with, like, hey, let's talk about the biggest cinematic masterpiece you've ever been in. Remember that time you were in X-Files for like 15 seconds?
Wow.
and see if he can't remember it. Because I was watching X-Files one night, I'm like, is that Ryan Reynolds? It's like a 17-year-old Ryan Reynolds.
Damn. That's like, seeing Jack Black. And again, never-ending story. But the third one, he was the antagonist in the Never-Ending Story 3.
Yeah, wasn't he a bully?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Or it's even like, oh, Seth Rogen was a bully in Donnie Darko.
No. Really?
Yeah. He was like the one making fun of the girl, like, didn't your mom kill your dad or something? Something like that.
I gotta rewatch Johnny Darko, I guess.
Yeah. I'm just like, what? He's an asshole? Oh, wait, yeah.
What are you doing? Why you gotta be a dick about it?
Yeah. And even like,
or that one,
Jack Black in Biodome with Pauly Shore and one of the what's his one of the Baldwin's brothers. Yeah.
I don't know why I remember that. Oh no, I remember why I know that. It's because I grew up watching Biodome.
Yeah. Or Foo Fighters Learn to Fly.
Uh-huh.
The music video.
Or how Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters played Satan twice for Jack Black.
Mm.
He was in the for the song Tribute, he was in the Tenacious D video for Tribute. He played the devil in that.
Yeah.
And he also played the devil at the end of Pick of Destiny.
Yeah. There's all these little, like, things. But, yeah. It's crazy.
But okay. I don't know the actor's name, but have you ever heard of the show The League?
The League?
Yeah, it's on FX.
I know a couple of leagues, but I don't think I know The League.
It's like it's a movie about not movie. It's a TV show about a group of idiot friends who run a fantasy football league. And they're constantly like sabotaging each other and whatnot.
Yeah, I don't know that one.
A buddy of mine watches it. One of my roommates, and one of the actors, his name was Mark Duplass, and he was in the movie Creep.
Right.
He was the killer. And in Creep 2, there's a scene where you see him completely nude, top to bottom, hiding nothing.
Wow.
I mean, nothing, hiding nothing. And on reflex, I walked into my roommate's room, and he's watching the league, and there's a moment where Mark Duplass and some of his goofy ass friends come walking into the room in that show, and I just reflexively pointed at Mark Duplass and went, "Hey, I've seen his dick." And like, it didn't occur to me what I just said, but I'm just standing there pointing like, "Oh no."
Yeah.
Oh.
It actually kind of reminds me of when what is it? Wild Things. I feel like the internet's trying to like bury all evidence, but there's supposed to be like the deleted scene in Wild Things where you see Kevin Bacon's bacon.
Kevin Bacon's bacon.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm like, are they trying to erase that?
My favorite part of watching movies with like my wife or one of my friends is all just like, hey, look, and I'll just name like a character they played in a different movie.
Mm.
Like, oh god, I don't know the name of the guy. it'll probably come back to me once I like find his face.
Yeah, but like, yeah, I do that kind of thing all the time. Like, if I recognize someone, I'm like, oh damn.
I
But
know
then,
that.
yeah, I'll usually reference the character from the other movie.
Well, there's an episode of the X-Files where Bruce Campbell played a vampire, and
Huh.
it's weird to see him in that role because it looks like it was right after Army of Darkness.
Okay. Wait.
So, but his hair's cut really short,
Yeah.
and like
I
I've never really seen him with super short hair, so I'm just like, is that Bruce Campbell? Is
Yeah.
that what's going on?
Because even remembering that he's in Xenar, I'm just like, oh right, he was.
Oh my god, he was.
Yeah. And even just referencing Jack Black, I think I was thinking of it because he was in an episode of X Files as well. Because he was at an arcade and his friend was playing one of the machines and then he like electrocutes him. It's a kid that has electric
Yeah.
powers.
Oh my god.
It's absolutely insane. All of the like little bit parts that people did, you know, and some
Well,
of
it's
them were
like
just
when,
like tucked away.
Well, it's like when Robert Patrick took over for what's his name? For David Duchovny.
Yeah,
And like every time he's doing cop stuff, I'm like, shouldn't you be hunting John Connor?
yeah, and they did that in Wayne's World.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen this boy?
And another funny one like that. What was it? Oh yeah. So I think it was during his run on the show. You had that little guy that got around on the little trolley, the little wooden trolley with the wheels. He would just like push himself along with just his hands. But he'd like
Was it a short person?
yeah, really really short, and he'd just like lie there on just like a flat square like board which had wheels underneath, and he'd come after you.
Vern Troyer?
Hmm?
Vern Troyer?
Deep Roy.
Yeah, it took me a minute there. I'm like,
Deep Roy. And he's also the Oompa Loompas in the
Oompa Loompas, yep.
remake. But when he was a lot younger and a lot better looking, he was the snail rider in The Neverending Story.
Are you saying there's a Neverending Story cinematic universe out there?
It might be. At this point, it might be. Like, you have the racing snail guy that's in all these other things, and yeah. And like Friday the 13th references before the movie even starts with Bugs Bunny, Daffy, Elmer. You have these weird connections. And Jack Black.
This is all somehow tied into Breaking Bad. I know it.
You probably could, like, with and it's again, funny enough, the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. You can always wrap it around to someone. There's probably like even just like a key grip guy who was worked on another movie that then ties it back to someone else. And that's not even getting into like when you look at, say, for example, Kingdom Hearts 3. You look at all the Disney voice actors, old and new. You look at some of the other stuff they've done, and just how it all wraps around. Like it's people just know people.
Exactly.
Actually, and okay, and I'll get extra weird. So you wouldn't be able to find anything about me on the internet, really, but I'll give you one. Okay. Gene Simmons, the actress, not the singer, different spelling altogether, right? She had been around since basically the other actress, I can't remember her name, from The Wizard of Oz. We're going back like 1914.
Sure.
And she'd been in all these movies throughout the whole silver screen era. She had been in Spartacus. She had been, I think she was in Ben-Hur. Just a myriad of like big movies. And even like Guys and Dolls. And you've got Marlon Brando and Frank Sinatra, right?
Mm.
And then in more the 1950s or like the early 1900s, Great Expectations, and then in the 80s one, so she was Estelle in the first one, and she was Miss Havisham in the last one she did. And then when she was a bit too old for acting, she did voice acting. And she did 3, but I think 2 are the only ones that made it, like, to the cinemas. One was Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within, where she's a council member next to Keith David of Goliath and Spawn fame. And then the next movie she did, she was the grandma in Howl's Moving Castle. And what does this have to do with me? Well, her cousin is my grandmother on my mother's side.
I'll be damned.
And people that know my name and can, because someone decided to like do an ancestry thing, but working all through it, you see this like nice little connection, and it's not even like through like a marriage or anything else like that. It is like I share the same DNA as Gene Simmons. And funny enough, before I went into the whole cosplay thing and all that, eventually leading to Jason, I'd been wanting to actually get back in contact with Gene Simmons, and the girlfriend at the time that I was scaring with my Jason costume, she wanted to move back to the States to see her grandmother, and I wanted to see my great aunt. But then that kind of all fell through, and then I tried reconnecting with her like just on my own, and I tried asking my grandmother about her again, and so she tried getting back in contact with her, and it was in those first few months of 2010 that she actually passed away from lung cancer. So it was like February 2010, which was, I'd broken up with the previous girlfriend in November of 2009. So in that November, December, January, February, that 4 months trying to get back in contact with her, we couldn't because, she was having complications at the time. And then I had gotten the call from my grandmother about it, and then like within the hour it's all over TV. So because I wanted to actually go over there, and I think it was yeah, I would have gone over to like LA, but I think my girlfriend at the time would have been going back to Springfield, Illinois, so that's where I would have ended up being based. And yeah,
Mm. Huh.
so that's my obscure thing.
That's your 7 degrees of separation.
Yeah,
Your personal 7 degrees of separation. Damn, man. Damn. Like, uh, hmm. I
yeah.
I wasn't expecting all that.
Mm-hmm. Most people don't. Most people just instantly call BS, but
Oh no, like
yeah.
you know,
And
stranger
I
things have happened.
absolutely understand where they're coming from. It's like, oh, you're based in Australia. It's like, well, she's from she's from England. My grandma's from England. Like,
Well, even then, people move. So
yeah.
like,
So it's like, because my grandma was even pursuing like TV and entertainment and all that, but then she decided to settle down instead. So, you know, and then she was in Australia. She met this nice man, had some kids, and then those kids had me. So, but yeah, that's how crazy the world is.
well, like, well, it's funny because like, I mean, you've got blood relation to a famous actress, but I keep like accidentally running into them.
Mm.
Like, I mean, he would. I mean, I don't know if he'd be considered famous in the eyes of the world as it is now.
No.
But Aaron McGahey from Jackass.
Yep. Yep.
He lives in Portland, Oregon, where I am, and I went to a Portland Trailblazers game, a basketball game, and he was there. But he was so they usually do a thing where it's like, oh, there's a celebrity in the house, and they have the him showing up on the I can't remember the name of the TV.
Titantron, or whatever it is.
Yeah, the Titantron. It's like celebrity guest in the house, but it wasn't him.
Oh.
They're like, well, no, it wasn't like a dig at him. It was like
Yeah.
a drummer from like Styx or something. And it's like, oh, we got a celebrity in the house. It's David, whatever, and it's like it shows him in the shot. I can see Aaron McGahey,
Yeah.
and I'm sitting like up in the nosebleeds with my friend, and I'm just like, what? Wait a minute! And it's like right after Jackass 3 came out, so I'm like, oh, it's that guy. And I'm like, I gotta shake his hand, and like. My friend was willing to give up, but I'm like, no, I'm gonna shake his hand. So we stagger down there, and have you seen Jackass 3?
I think I have a few times.
So you know that moment where Aaron gets his tooth pulled out by a Ferrari?
Oh, the Lamborghini. Yep.
Yep, that's him, and I found him. And he's still missing that tooth.
Yeah.
And that's all I could think about. And so I shook his hand, like, hey man, sorry about the tooth. I'm a big fan. He was like, yep, it's fine. And then my dad, years back, ran into Bruce Campbell.
Yeah.
In a bar in Oregon. I guess he lives here.
Could do, yeah.
And my dad has this Evil Dead hat that says "Join Us" on the back. He's had it for years, but he like Like, my dad's just like me, and in that we can kind of understand that a lot of people, if they're famous or well known, they don't want, like, oh my god, I'm such a big fan. You know?
Obviously, yeah.
And so my dad just kind of calmly walks over. He goes, "Hey man, are you Bruce Campbell?" Like, nobody else noticed in the bar yet. It's like, are you Bruce Campbell? And, yeah, Bruce, like, yeah, what's up? And it's like, oh shit. He's like, I'm such a big fan. He's like, me and my kid, huge fans of you. We love the Evil Dead movies. It's fantastic. And Bruce Campbell goes, well, if you have anything that you want me to sign, I'll sign it for you. And my dad goes, well, I've got my Evil Dead hat out in my truck. I'll go grab it. And my dad tells me, he's like, yeah, I walked calmly to the front door. I open the door, I step out, and as the door closes behind me, I sprint to my truck. And he gets it signed, and he's telling me all this while he's holding the hat behind his back. I'm like, well, what's it say? He goes, well, he wrote your name on it. I'm like, oh, no. And I'll replace. I'll just put Frezzman in the way there.
Yeah.
But he hands me this hat. I'm like, oh, I wonder what he wrote. And I look at the hat, and it says, Frezzman, clean your room, signed Ash, Bruce Campbell. Just like, son of a bitch. Like, oh. Like, the most, like, not mean-spirited, but just, like, gentle punch in the gut you could have given, like, a 10-year-old at that point.
Yeah.
Just like, And I still have that hat around here somewhere. Yep. There we go. I was about to start panicking because I'm like, oh shit, where is it? Because, like, pretty sure if I lose it, my dad's gonna kill me. Even though I'm 23, married, and living on my own. If I lose a prized possession, he'll probably kill me.
Yeah.
But with that, I think we'll draw this to a close. Because we're reaching the 3.5 hour mark.
Yep.
And it's almost 1 a.m. for me.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. Don't worry, I'm not doing much tomorrow. But hey man, we'll wrap this episode up real quick. Pardon. Heartburn? Hey man, it was super nice talking to you. I had a whole lot of fun.
Me too.
And I have just one final question for you before we wrap this up. Would you consider coming back on and being a return guest?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Again, I'll put the links in the description for you guys watching at home. Here's JasonTakesOmegle. Do you want YouTube and Twitter on there?
Yeah, that's fine. Yep.
Alright.
They'll probably enjoy the Instagram more than Twitter.
Instagram, okay. Yeah, I don't have one myself, but I will write that in my notes. But Insta link. There we go. Fantastic. So, thank you very much for stopping by. I had a whole lot of fun, and thank you, those watching at home, for checking this out. Listen to both of us ramble for 3 hours. I mean, it's 3 times as long as every other episode. But
Once you like trim out some of the dead air.
oh, that's only like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But again, I had a whole lot of fun. It was super nice talking to you. And
You too.
I will see you guys at home next time.